There is a kind of silence that only old places know. It gathers in the corners of ruined halls, hums faintly beneath the earth, and lingers where people once whispered and worked and dreamed. If you stand long enough in that silence, you can almost hear them again. The faint echo of footsteps, the ring of iron, the breath of fields turning under the sun. This story begins in that silence. Not with kings or crowns, but with the people who lived beneath them. The countless souls whose names were never written down, yet whose hands built the world piece by piece, the Middle Ages. A time wrapped in fog, remembered for castles and wars, for banners and saints, for plagues and prayers. But beneath the armor and the stone, there was another world, slower, smaller, made of soil and smoke. A world of peasants, of laborers, of mothers waiting at the hearth, of children running barefoot through the mud. They lived under the watch of castles that rose like mountains against the horizon. From far away, those towers seemed eternal, symbols of power, of order, of faith. But for those who lived below them, they were reminders that life was not their own, that the harvest could be taken, that the sky itself seemed to belong to someone else. And yet in that shadow, life continued. The peasants sang while they worked. They prayed when they had nothing else. They found love in small moments, a shared meal, a warm fire, the laughter of a child. They endured the floods, the famines, the sickness, and still they rose each morning to face another day. History may not remember their faces, but the earth does. Every field, every path, every stone still carries their touch. Tonight we will walk among them. We will leave behind the noise of modern life and wander through forgotten villages, where water runs slow, where smoke curls from thatched roofs, where faith is both comfort and chain. We will see how people survived, how they dreamed, how they believed. So find your stillness. Let the pace slow. Let the weight of centuries press gently around you, like a blanket of time. The torches on the castle walls are already burning. The wind moves through the valley, and somewhere far below a bell is ringing, calling us down into the shadow. This is under the shadow of the castle, what medieval life was really like. There is a hill where the wind never rests. Every morning it sighs through tall grass and empty stone, whispering against walls that have watched 1,000 seasons come and go. At the top of that hill stands a castle, its towers pale and proud, its corners squared against the sky. From below, it looks perfect, solid, immortal, a monument carved for kings and their lineages, meant to outlast the people who built it. But no stone, no matter how thick, can stand apart from time. If you listen closely, even this great fortress makes small sounds of wear. The low groan of wood that has swollen with rain, the faint crumble of mortar loosening under frost. The ivy climbs higher every year. The banners fade to the color of dusk, and yet to the people who live in its shadow, it seems eternal. The castle commands the landscape, not by noise or movement, but by presence. It is visible from every field, every bend in the road, every patch of sky between trees. It reminds the villagers that someone owns this world, even when that someone is nowhere to be seen. At dawn, when the mist still clings to the valley, a few shapes move along the outer walls. Guards changing shift, a kitchen hand carrying water from the well. The echo of iron shoes on stone. For those who live outside its gates, these are distant, almost mythical sounds, proof that somewhere above them, life is happening differently. Down below, the day begins long before the sun reaches the battlements. In cottages half buried in earth, fires are coaxed to life with careful breaths. The first smoke of the morning rises thin and blue, drifting across the fields like a prayer. Roosters call, dogs stir, and children are sent out to fetch water still cold from the well. They call this place simply the village because it needs no name. The castle defines it. The land belongs to the Lord. The houses belong to the land, and the people belong to both. It has always been that way, or at least as far back as anyone remembers. If you walked through the lanes just after sunrise, you'd find the world still soft with dew. Thatched roofs shine silver. Puddles hold small mirrors of the sky. The air smells of wood smoke and damp straw. Somewhere a woman hums while grinding grain. The sound of the stone wheel circles like slow thunder beneath her song. Nearby, a man mends a broken gate with hands that have done the same motion since his father's time. Nothing here is hurried. There's no reason to rush when every task will return tomorrow. In the Middle Ages, time was not measured in minutes or hours, but in light, in how long it lasted and how soon it left. To the villagers, the castle is both guardian and ghost. It offers protection from raiders and outlaws, but also serves as a constant reminder of power. When its bell tolls out deep, distant and slow, it means tax day or a call to harvest or the arrival of someone important. Every sound from that hill carries weight. Sometimes when the wind is right, they can hear faint music from within its walls. A lute, laughter, the clatter of dishes during a feast. The sound drifts down the slopes and mingles with the night air, unreal and unreachable. For a moment, children stop their play to listen. They imagine gold plates, candles, silks. Then the music fades and they return to the mud. Most peasants will never enter the castle. They'll see its gates open only for riders or processions. Yet it shapes their days all the same, dictating taxes, declaring holy days, deciding whose hands may touch which soil. The Lord Steward rides out once a month on a brown horse, parchment rolled beneath his arm. He speaks little, writes much, and leaves with more than he arrived, and still the people survive. They bow, they pay, they plant again, because beneath the shadow life continues with quiet stubbornness. By midday the fields shimmer under heat. Men bend low, cutting grain with short curved sickles. Their backs ache, their hands blister. The air hums with flies and the creak of wooden carts. There's no breeze down here. The wind belongs to the hill. Children chase after crows that land too close to the sheaves, laughing in bursts before being called back to work. Further down the valley, women wash linen in the stream. They talk softly, voices blending with the rush of water. News travels this way, through stories half remembered and rumors reshaped with each telling. One woman says the Lord's son will soon wed a lady from the next shire. Another says the king is raising taxes again. Someone else whispers that a comet was seen last month, a bad omen. They nod, they cross themselves, they rinse another sheet. The river keeps its own secrets. As evening nears, smoke begins to rise again from hearths across the village. Stew simmers slowly, onions, barley, a hint of salted meat if fortune was kind. The smell fills the lanes, mingling with damp earth and the faint sweetness of hay. It is not a feast, but it is enough. When the sun sinks behind the castle walls, its shadow stretches long, swallowing cottages, paths, and people. The hill turns black against a red sky, and the first stars tremble above its towers. The villagers know this hour well. It is the time to stop working, to bow their heads toward the chapel, to thank whatever power still listens. And then, one by one, they disappear into their homes. Inside, the world is small again. A single fire throws light onto walls of wattle and daub. The roof sighs in the wind. A mother hums to a child. An old man sharpens his sickle by habit, though he will not need it until morning. There is no rush to sleep, only the slow folding of the day into rest. Outside, the castle glows faintly, torches burning in its narrow windows. From afar, it looks alive, like a giant watching over the valley. Some find comfort in that. Others turn away before they look too long, because they know that the same light that shines above them was bought with their work, their grain, their years. And still they will rise again tomorrow, and the day after that, and the one after. The shadow may stretch across their fields, but it has never quite reached their hearts. For in the quiet between dusk and dawn, the village dreams its own small dreams, of better harvests, of rain that comes gently, of a future where the castle is just another hill in the distance. And as sleep settles, the wind moves again through the tall grass on the slope, whispering the same ancient truth, that even stone is temporary. But the hands that build and endure, they are the ones that keep the world turning. If you follow the slope below the castle long enough, the land begins to soften. The soil darkens, the air grows heavy, and the sound of water replaces the cry of crows. Here the valley opens like a cupped hand, and in its palm rests a small settlement that the maps have forgotten. The people who live here simply call it the Bend. Others, if they speak of it at all, call it the River Bend Hamlet. The river is everything to them. It gives, it takes, it decides. In spring it swells with meltwater from the hills, shining wide and silver. In summer it shrinks to a calm green vein through the reeds. The hamlet clings to its banks like moss, a dozen huts with thatched roofs, a crooked wooden bridge, a mill wheel turning slowly in the current. To a traveler it might look like the edge of the world. To those who live here it is the world. When dawn comes, the river wakes first. Mist curls from its surface, pale and weightless, drifting through the willows. The first sound is the splash of oars, a fisherman easing his small boat away from the mud, wrapped in a cloak still damp from yesterday's rain. The second is the bleat of a goat somewhere uphill. Then the thin cry of a child calling after him. Daylight spreads in ripples. Houses here are simple, wood frames packed with clay, patched with whatever can be found. Walls lean inward as if tired of standing. Inside, the same fire burns day after day. Its smoke stains the rafters black. The hearth never truly goes cold, even in summer, because the river air makes everything damp, and a cold bed is worse than an empty one. A woman stirs porridge, slow circles in a cracked pot. Her husband mends a net at the doorway, fingers quick despite the chill. They speak little. In a place like this, speech is measured out like flour, carefully, never wasted. Beyond the cottages, the fields begin, narrow strips of barley and rye following the curve of the bank. The soil is rich but fickle. Each flood brings new promise and new ruin. Sometimes the earth yields too much. Sometimes it gives nothing but weeds. The people plant anyway year after year because hope, like hunger, returns whether you want it or not. By mid-morning, the hamlet hums. A girl drives geese toward the shallows, their wings scattering droplets of light. A boy drags a wooden cart filled with reeds for roof patching. Old men sit near the mill, arguing about the river's depth, pretending not to notice that their hands tremble with age. The mill wheel groans, turning grain into coarse flour that will taste faintly of smoke and damp wood. Every sound here is soft but constant, like breathing. Sometimes the Lord Steward arrives from the castle, his horse's hooves striking sparks on the stones. The children run to see him, half afraid, half curious. He smells of leather and iron, and things that don't belong near water. He reads names from a list, collects sacks of barley, counts fish, then rides away. When he's gone, the hamlet exhales, as if it has been holding its breath too long. The river swallows the sound of his departure, and peace returns. Afternoons are slower. The sun lies heavy on the fields. Flies circle in the warm air, and the only movement is the shimmer of heat above the grass. Work continues because it must. Repairs to the boat, weaving of baskets, scraping scales from fish laid out to dry. Time here is not marked by bells or clocks. It moves by the flow of the river and the shadow of the reeds. When storms come, they come without warning. A still sky turns black. The wind bends the trees. Rain hammers the roofs. Thunder rolls along the valley. The people retreat indoors, sealing doors with rags, whispering short prayers to St. Nicholas, patron of sailors and those who live near water. Sometimes the river rises fast, creeping through the lanes, dark and silent. Candles float on bowls, small islands of light in the dark. By morning the water will have gone, leaving behind mud, broken fences and stories. After the flood, life resumes. Children laugh again. Animals are rounded up. The mill wheel turns once more. The people here have learned not to curse the river. It is their enemy and their savior, their burden and their bread. They treat it as one treats a temperamental master, with respect, fear and a hint of affection. As evening falls, the hamlet glows gold in the last light. Smoke rises from chimneys curling toward the pale sky. Frogs begin to sing, low and rhythmic, a sound older than language. Families gather around small fires. The day's work is done, but the world keeps moving. The river never sleeps. A father tells his children that long ago, before the castle stood, giants lived in these hills and carved the river with their hands. The children believe him. They fall asleep to the murmur of water, dreaming of giant footprints filling with rain. Outside, the moon climbs over the valley. It catches on the wet thatch, the silver ripples, the still oars tied beside the bank. The castle's distant light flickers on the hill, a reminder that even here in this forgotten bend, power still watches from above. But the people do not look up. They have their own kingdom, small, fragile, and entirely their own. When night deepens, the river hums softly to itself. It carries the day's whispers downstream, the laughter, the sighs, the prayers, blending them into one long, endless sound. And somewhere far away, another village will wake to it, believing it is only the wind. Not every village is green. Beyond the riverlands, where the soil turns stony and the trees grow thin, there lies a settlement that never quite wakes from its own smoke. The people call it simply the hill, though the ground here is more ash than earth and the air more soot than sky. When you first see it, it appears almost colorless. The cottages crouch low, built from the same grey timber that burns to make the Lord's charcoal. Even the grass is dulled with dust. It is a place that seems older than it should be, worn down by a kind of patience that belongs only to those who have never been allowed to stop working. At dawn, the hill looks asleep. No rooster breaks the silence, no bell rings. Then, one by one, faint orange glows appear across the slopes, small mounds of earth, each hiding a slow-burning fire. These are the charcoal kilns. They burn without flame, only with breath, eating the wood from within until nothing remains but the black heart of fuel. Men tend to them like priests at their altars. They know each pile by smell, by color, by the sound it makes when the wind changes. Too much air and the mound flares. Weeks of work gone in a moment. Too little and the fire dies, leaving only useless cinders. They move quietly through the haze, eyes narrowed, skin darkened from years of ash that never fully washes away. Further down the slope, women and children gather fallen branches, bundle them with twine and drag them uphill. Their footsteps make no sound on the grey soil. They speak rarely, for the air here makes throats dry and voices thin. And when they do, it is often about small things. A loaf that baked too quickly, a child's fever, the rumor that the Lord will raise his tithe again this year. The Lord himself lives far away, in a manor where the air is clear. He needs charcoal for his smiths, iron for plows, nails for his stables, swords for his men. The villagers have never seen those swords, only the black dust that helps to forge them. They send their wagons down the forest road every month, their wheels squeaking like tired breath, their drivers coughing from the soot that clings to everything they own. By midday, the hill is a world of shifting smoke. Sunlight filters through it in slow golden beams, touching the ground only for a moment before vanishing again. The heat is constant. Even in winter, when other villages freeze, this place steams and sweats. The smell is sharp, half fire, half metal, with something bitter beneath it. Meals are taken in silence, bread thick with grit, broth dark from the smoke that drifts into every pot. Sometimes the children refuse to eat. They have grown used to hunger. Their mothers coax them with soft stories, tales of rivers and green fields they've never seen. In their minds, the world is brighter somewhere else, even if they cannot imagine where. As afternoon fades, the men return from the woods. Their arms ache from cutting trees, their clothes damp with sweat and rain. They stand for a while by the glowing mounds, faces lit orange, watching for signs of collapse. To them, this is what the world means: to cut, to burn, to feed the fire that feeds the Lord. They do not call it suffering. It is simply life. When evening comes, the hill changes again. The smoke thins, drifting sideways along the valley. The last carts creak toward the manor road, wheels sinking in ash. Children chase after them until they disappear around the bend, their laughter faint and unreal. In the cottages, doors close against the chill. A single flame flickers in each hearth, smaller than the ones outside, but kinder. Families sit close together, faces half lit, half shadowed. The talk is low and even. They speak of rain, of sickness, of the coming feast day when the priest will climb the hill to bless the fires. For a few moments, warmth feels like safety. Outside, the night deepens. The hills glow faintly from the slow breath of the charcoal mounds, each one pulsing red like the embers of an enormous heart. If you climb to the crest and look down, the village looks almost alive. A constellation of orange stars scattered across a grey sea. Far to the west, the castle glimmers in the distance. Its towers catch the last of the moonlight, white and cold. The villagers see it rarely, but they know it's there. A different kind of fire, bright and unreachable. They joke quietly that the smoke from their kilns feeds the torches in the Lord's Hall. Perhaps it does. Perhaps every glow, no matter how humble, serves something grander that never looks back. Sometimes, on clear nights, a few of the older men gather at the edge of the woods. They sit on stumps, share weak ale, and talk about how the forest used to stretch farther. One remembers a stream that ran clean. Another recalls birdsong he hasn't heard in years. They do not complain. They simply remember. Memory here is the only wealth that costs nothing to keep. When they return home, they pass the charcoal mounds one last time. Each breath of heat paints their faces in orange light. They look for cracks, adjust a vent, whisper a short prayer to the fire. It is an old superstition that the flame, if respected, will spare the next harvest of trees. No one truly believes it, but everyone does it anyway, and then the night settles. The smoke thins into mist, rising to meet the stars. The village sighs, quiet at last. In the stillness, the only sound is the soft hiss of cooling earth, like the hill itself breathing. Somewhere beyond the haze, a wolf calls once, far away. The echo travels down through the forest, across the road up toward the white castle that gleams on its hill. For a moment, the two worlds share the same night. Then the sound fades, and the hill of ashes drifts back into silence, unseen, uncounted, and eternal in its endurance. Far from the forest, smoke and the scent of burning wood lies a gentler place. The hills roll low here, green and open, as if the land itself is exhaling. Between them rests a small village built around a single sound, a bell. Its voice drifts through the valley at dawn, at noon, at dusk. It marks not just the hours, but the purpose of the day. This is the veil of faith. At first light, the mist hangs like a veil between earth and heaven. It curls through the fields, softening every shape. The thatched roofs, the crooked fences, the crosses that rise from small gardens. From the chapel roof, a rooster calls once, then again, as if answering the bell. Soon after, the first figures begin to move. Women step outside to gather water, their heads wrapped in scarves against the cold. Men shoulder tools, rubbing sleep from their eyes. Children yawn and chase chickens from the doorway. No one hurries. The day is already blessed. There is no escaping it, only meeting it with patience. At the heart of the village stands the chapel, small, uneven, and old enough that no one remembers who built it. Its stones are lichen-covered. Its door creaks like a tired voice. Inside, candles still burn from the night before, their wax pooling in the cracks of the altar. The air smells of smoke and beeswax, of damp wool and human breath. For the people here, this is home as much as their cottages are. The priest lives in a narrow hut behind the chapel. He is a thin man with a quiet step, and eyes that seem to listen more than look. He has no family, no land, and no wealth beyond the robe he wears. Yet in the veil, his word weighs more than any lord's decree. He tells the people when to fast, when to feast, when to mourn, when to rejoice. He tells them when their sins can be forgiven and when they cannot. They trust him because trust is simpler than doubt. The rhythm of life here is shaped entirely by ritual. Before sunrise, the bell calls for matins, morning prayer. The sound rolls through the valley, echoing from hill to hill. Even those who do not attend pause in their work and bow their heads. At noon comes the Angelus, a reminder to bless the fields and the hands that till them. At dusk, Vespers, the final prayer before the dark settles in. Each sound marks the passing of light, and with it the quiet acceptance that time belongs not to men but to God. Work fills the hours between bells. The land here is rich but hard. The people grow wheat and barley, keeping a portion for themselves and sending the rest to the Lord's granary. They tend sheep, mend fences, and patch roofs with the same patience that they give to prayer. Their lives are repetitive, but repetition is comfort. Every day follows the one before like a line in a psalm, predictable, eternal. Sundays are different. The entire village gathers at the chapel, dressed in what they call their good rags. The bell rings louder that morning, as if pleased by the attention. Inside, sunlight filters through the small window, striking the altar and turning the dust into gold. The priest speaks in Latin. Few understand the words, but meaning isn't in the language, Gune. It's in the rhythm, the sound, the way it fills the wooden ceiling like the sea fills a shell. When he raises the chalice, everyone kneels. Children watch in silence. Old men bow their heads and murmur the same prayers they've spoken since childhood. It is a performance as old as memory, and yet it never loses its power. In a world where nothing else is certain, not the harvest, not the weather, not tomorrow, the church is a promise that something endures. After the service, the people spill into the sunlight. The air smells of bread from the communal oven, of damp soil and wild thyme. They linger to talk as about births, marriages, rumors of war. Some trade eggs or butter. Others share stories about saints and miracles. Every tale, no matter how strange, ends the same way. God's will be done. In the evenings, the valley glows with quiet warmth. Fires burn behind every door. Voices drift through the still air. Children play in the dirt until the bell rings again, signaling Compline, the last prayer before sleep. Then slowly the village dims. The only sound is the wind brushing through the wheat and the faint crackle of fires dying down. But inside the cottages, faith lingers. A woman kneels by the bed of her sick husband, whispering words the priest taught her. Protect him through the night, O Lord, and wake him with the light. A shepherd thanks God for a day without wolves. A child dreams of angels. And in the chapel, the priest sits alone, watching the last candle fade. Sometimes he wonders if anyone truly listens, if heaven hears these small voices from the earth. But he keeps the bell rope near his hand. He will ring it again at dawn because the people will expect it, and because silence would be worse. Outside, the stars begin to show clear and endless. They seem close enough to touch, Perhaps that is what faith really is, not proof, but the decision to reach upward anyway, again and again, through darkness and doubt. The veil of faith sleeps beneath those stars, breathing in rhythm with the hills. The bell rope sways gently in the wind, a soft reminder that morning will come, and the world will begin again, not because it must, but because it always has. And in that endless repetition, the people find their peace. South of the veil, the land opens again. It stretches wide and flat, the color of bronze in summer, the color of slate in winter. A broad river curls through it, lazy and bright, so wide that it seems to carry the sky upon its back. Here lies the floodplain, a place both blessed and cursed. The soil is the richest for miles, dark and heavy, thick with the memory of drowned forests. Every handful of earth smells alive. And yet, every person who works it knows that this gift is never free. The year begins not with spring but with the thaw. Ice loosens its grip on the river. Water gathers and moves. For days the villagers watch the current rise, measuring it against stones, doorsteps, tree roots. They talk in low voices, never naming the flood outright as if words might summon it sooner. They patch walls with straw, lift tools onto shelves and tie their livestock to higher posts. When the rain finally comes, it comes sideways, driven by wind. The river swells grey and cold, pushing against its banks with slow confidence. Inside each cottage the same ritual unfolds. A man presses his ear to the ground, listening for the hollow sound of water beneath. A woman gathers the smallest children, wrapping them in blankets near the hearth. The dog growls at the door, and then silence breaks, the dull, steady knock of waves against wood. The river has arrived. At first, the water is only ankle deep. It smells of clay and weeds, of things long buried. Then it climbs inch by inch, patient as time itself. A clay jug floats past, then a stool, then the firewood stacked by the door. The villagers do not fight. They move to the lofts, to the attics, to the hill behind the mill. They watch their world disappear beneath a moving mirror. Days pass like this, with no boundary between sky and earth. The river becomes a sea, the cottages islands. The people cook what little they saved. Salted fish, hard bread, and wait. They sleep in shifts, listening for the creak of beams, the cry of animals, the whisper of prayer. When morning comes, it brings no sun, only a pale blur of light through rain. The flood stays until it decides to leave, and then one morning it does. As slowly as it came, it draws back. The ground reappears soft and shining, covered in a skin of silt. The villagers climb down from their perches and stand ankle-deep in mud, squinting at what remains. Fences gone, coops broken, a boat stranded in the middle of the road. They do not cry. They begin to work. The same hands that once lifted roofs now lift shovels. They dig channels to guide the next flood away. They sweep mud from their doorsteps, rebuild walls and hang damp herbs in the windows to chase away the smell. Children chase frogs that have claimed the yard, laughing again as if nothing happened. Hope here is not a feeling, it's a reflex. By midsummer, the fields are green again, impossibly green. The flood has left behind its quiet gift, new life folded into the soil. The grain rises tall and gold. The air hums with insects. When they harvest, the villagers give thanks to both heaven and water, for both have shown mercy in their own way. Some carry offerings to the small shrine near the riverbank, candles placed on flat stones, flowers weighted with pebbles. They whisper short blessings, almost embarrassed to be heard. In the evenings, when the sky turns copper, the river looks peaceful again, pretending innocence. Children skip stones across its surface, counting the ripples. Old men sit with their feet in the shallows, telling stories about floods that reached even higher, long before anyone now alive was born. Each story ends the same way: we stayed. We always stay. There is wisdom in that stubbornness. To leave would mean losing the only land that still remembers them kindly. The castle's tacksmen seldom come this far. The road is too soft for their horses. The people of the floodplain live between danger and freedom, owing nothing but patience to the river that rules them. When autumn arrives, fog clings low over the water. The fields gleam with dew. The reeds turn brown and whisper in the wind. The villagers move more slowly now, savoring each clear day before the rains return. They mend roofs, seal barrels, and stack food high against the loft beams. Each task feels like a prayer for mercy. On certain nights when the moon is bright and the river lies still, its surface reflects the castle far away, a tiny glimmer on the horizon, trembling in the current. The villagers see it and say nothing. That reflection is enough. It reminds them that the world above still exists, but that their own world endures without it. And so life flows on. The flood comes, the flood goes. The earth forgets its pain and grows fertile again. The people rebuild, laugh, and wait for the next rising. Their faith is not in gods or kings, but in the strange kindness of repetition, the knowledge that even ruin can begin again. When winter finally arrives, the river freezes at its edges. Children walk along the ice, tracing lines with sticks. The adults watch from the shore, half smiling, half afraid. They know that come spring, the river will wake once more. It always does. It always will. And beneath the castle's distant glow, the floodplain sleeps, damp, resilient, and endlessly alive. A place that survives not by fighting the water, but by learning to rise and fall with it, over and over until the end of time. Keep walking north and the land begins to empty. The fields thin to heath, the trees to stunted birch. Roads crumble into paths, then into nothing. Even the sound of the river disappears. Only the wind remains, carrying the smell of moss and old rain. Here, where the hills meet the clouds, lies a place few remember, the forgotten outpost. It is not a village so much as a scattering of lives. A handful of cottages lean against a broken wall that once guarded something important, a border perhaps, or a dream. The stones are half buried now, softened by centuries of lichen. When the sun sets, they glow faintly, as if remembering the fires that once burned along their edge. People still live here, though fewer each year. They are old, quiet, and cautious with words. Their faces are the color of the land, pale, lined, familiar. They speak of weather more than time, of sky more than kings. To them, the castle is only a rumor carried by traders in summer, a white ghost beyond the southern hills. At dawn, smoke curls from the chimneys, thin and blue. Inside, a hearth barely holds a flame. A woman grinds oats in a bowl carved from stone. Her hands move by memory. An old man patches a net, though the river he once fished has long since dried. A child collects twigs, humming a tune no one taught her. In the stillness, the house creaks, as if remembering other voices. The outpost sits near the edge of the moor. Fog drifts through like slow water, hiding everything beyond arm's reach. The ground is soft and full of secrets. Animal tracks, forgotten graves, the marks of carts that never returned. At its center stands an oak tree older than memory. Its branches twist like veins against the sky. When the wind rises, they groan softly, and the villagers listen, pretending it is speech. There is no steward here, no tax, no messenger. The Lord's reach ends before the moor begins. No one comes to collect because there is nothing left worth taking. Once, perhaps, this was a watch post. Soldiers guarding the edge of some forgotten boundary. Now only crows patrol the wall. In summer, a few travelers pass through. They stay one night, trading salt or stories for a place near the fire. The villagers feed them broth and ask for news of the world. Is the war still going? Is the king still alive? The travelers nod, though they no longer know. By morning they are gone, their footprints already fading into grass. The seasons here arrive like slow breaths. Spring brings a thin green mist across the moor, and the sound of meltwater trickling from stones. Summer hums softly with insects. Autumn tastes of smoke and berries. Winter, long and white, silences everything but the wind. The villagers endure each in turn, marking time by what the fire consumes. First twigs, then logs, then pieces of furniture too broken to repair. Inside the cottages, life has become a circle of small gestures. Feeding the animals, mending clothes, sweeping the same floor, saying the same prayer before sleep. They are not unhappy. In the absence of change, peace takes root. They have no fear of raiders, no need for guards, no envy for the towns beyond the hills. Theirs is a life measured not by progress, but by persistence. Sometimes on clear nights they step outside to look at the sky. There are more stars here than anywhere else. They stretch from horizon to horizon, sharp and cold, so bright that the path glows faintly at their light. For a moment the villagers feel small but not forgotten. The world is vast, yes, but it still includes them. Stories linger here like smoke. They tell of a saint who once walked these moors, blessing the wind so it would never grow tired. They tell of a wolf that protected the last child during a harsh winter. They tell of bells heard in the fog, ringing from a church that no longer stands. Each story keeps the night company, a thin thread between now and what once was. When illness comes, it is met with calm. There are no healers, no herbs, only kindness. Neighbors sit together, holding hands until the fever passes or the breathing stops. Afterward, they light a candle in the window and let it burn until dawn. The next day, someone else takes the work, feeding the goats, mending the roof, and life continues quiet as ever. The children who grow here seldom stay. When they reach the edge of adulthood, they follow the road south, chasing noise, light, and promise. Their parents watch them vanish into the mist, waving long after they are gone. No letters ever come back. But sometimes, in the stillness before sleep, the elders imagine they hear footsteps on the path, voices calling from the dark. Dream or memory, it makes no difference. And yet, even as the years pass and roofs collapse, the outpost does not die. Grass grows through the cracks. Wildflowers bloom between stones. Birds nest in the chimney holes. Life finds a way to stay. The old ones plant seeds each spring, not because they expect to eat the harvest, but because it feels wrong not to. When the wind rises, it carries a faint echo from far away. The deep toll of a bell, perhaps from the Vale of Faith or the distant castle itself. The villagers pause and listen. It sounds like the world remembering them just for a moment. And when the wind stills again, silence returns, soft as a blanket. The stars brighten. The hearths glow faintly. The forgotten outpost settles deeper into its quiet. It will not vanish. It will simply fade, slowly, gently into the patient memory of the land. The castle still stands, high above the plains and rivers, above the charcoal hills and the whispering valleys. Its walls catch the first light of dawn. From this distance, it looks unchanged. The same towers, the same stones, the same proud defiance against the wind. But nothing in the world truly stays. The mortar cracks, the banners fray, the names of its lords are spoken less and less each year. Only the shape endures, and the shadow it casts. That shadow once reached farther than any sword. It touched the river villages, where nets hung heavy with silt and the steward's horse trampled the soft mud of the banks. It drifted through the charcoal hills, dimming even the fires that burned without end. It fell across the valleys of faith, cool and gentle as evening, reminding everyone that God and Lord alike were always watching. It even stretched to the floodplains and the forgotten outpost, faint but still there. A memory of command long after the voice had gone silent. Everywhere it touched, people learned the same quiet lesson, that power was not always loud. Sometimes it spoke through silence, through the weight of duty, through the knowledge that resistance was impossible, and yet life still needed to go on. Under that shadow, the world turns slowly, patiently. Imagine now as the centuries breathe past, the same lands changing beneath the same sun. The peasants who once bent their backs in the fields have become dust, feeding the roots that hold the soil together. The villages shift, shrink, rebuild. Rivers carve new paths, forests regrow, storms come and go. And still the castle watches, empty windows staring into time. Inside, the great hall has fallen quiet. The long tables where lords once feasted are warped with damp. The tapestry clings half loose from the wall, its colors faded to earth tones. The air smells of stone and rain. A bird nests in the corner of a window that once framed the whole valley. The only footsteps now are the echo of memory. But outside, life has never stopped. New farmers walk the same ridges, turning soil that has known 10,000 hands before theirs. Children laugh in courtyards that once held soldiers. Pilgrims rest in the chapel of the Vale, lighting candles for saints whose names even the priest has forgotten. The same river keeps moving, slow and certain, whispering the same lullaby it has always sung. The shadow is different now, softer, thinner. It no longer commands, it merely remembers. It falls gently over the ruins and the fields, a reminder of everything that once seemed permanent. Because time too has a kind of mercy. It lets even tyranny fade into story. If you stand at sunset and look toward the castle, you can still see the shadow stretching across the land. It touches the grass, the stones, the paths worn by generations of bare feet. And for a moment, it feels as though all those lives, the fishermen, the charcoal burners, the farmers, the forgotten wanderers, are still there, working quietly in the half-light. Their movements slow and rhythmic, as if guided by the same ancient pulse. Listen closely and you can almost hear them. The creak of a wheel, the whisper of a scythe, the faint ring of a bell in the distance. Sounds layered like breath upon breath, carried through centuries until they reach you. A soft murmur of everything that was once ordinary and is now sacred simply because it endured. We call them peasants, serfs, commoners. Words too small for the lives they held. They were the heartbeat beneath the throne, the steady hands behind every monument. Without them, the castles would have crumbled long before their lords ever fell. Their stories are not written in books. They are written in the landscape itself, in the curve of a terrace carved by generations, in the ruins of a mill swallowed by vines, in the faint outline of a path that still remembers where the feet once walked. When night comes, the shadow disappears, swallowed by the greater darkness of the sky. And yet that darkness is kind. It belongs to everyone equally, lord and peasant, rich and poor, remembered and forgotten. Under the same stars that once shone on the Middle Ages, the earth breathes slow and steady. The same wind that moved through the castle towers moves now through the grass above graves long unmarked. This is what remains of history, not the battles or the crowns, but the quiet endurance of life itself. The world keeps turning, the seasons keep circling, and the smallest acts of survival become the foundation for everything that follows. So rest now in this long piece of memory. Let the sound of the wind be your lullaby, the rustle of the fields your prayer. The castle has faded, its masters are gone, but their shadows have thinned into stories that still hold warmth. The people who lived beneath those shadows have found their freedom not in rebellion but in time. And somewhere, in that stillness between dusk and dawn, the land dreams of them. The nameless souls who once tilled its soil, drew its water, tended its fires. The ones who never sought to be remembered only to live another day. The shadow passes, the light remains, and beneath that light the world sleeps, patient, unbroken, eternal.